My name is Dr. Chris. I welcome every one of you to my YouTube channel, Mathematics and Statistics channel. In this channel, I'll be teaching various topics in mathematics and statistics. It will be on the essence is to simplify mathematics to its best. And I'm very sure by the grace of God, you will be a beneficiary. Today, I will be looking at Introduction to Statistics. Intro to Statistics. Statistics is a major branch in mathematics that deals with data. It deals with the collection of data. It deals with the compilation of data. It deals with the editing of data. It deals with the presentation of data. It deals with the analysis of data. And it also deals with the interpretation of data. So a layman's definition of statistics is, statistics can be defined as the collection, compilation, editing, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of numerical data. So statistics is centered on data. The first step is to collect data. Data are raw materials that a statistician works with. The same way a farmer goes to the farm with his tools, a statistician works with data. Data can either be live data, it can be taken as primary source, from a primary source or a secondary source. Then when data are now collected, you compile them. When you now compile them, you look for a way to edit them to see if there's any error. And after you have edited them, there are ways of presenting data. You present the data, then you now go ahead to analyze, and before you now do your interpretation. If you don't do your interpretation, your analysis is not complete. Statistics is very useful in our day-to-day life. Everybody practices or uses one knowledge or the other in statistics. Like for instance, the tailor that sews our clothes, the tailor will measure your arm, the length of your arm and the rest of them. Statistics have to do with measurement. It has to do with recording. It helps in policy making. It helps in quality decision taking. And it helps in proper record keeping. So we can use statistics in government, in our day-to-day life, in companies. Every aspect of life requires statistics. That's why you can see there is no course you study, whether in the university or in the polytechnic or in the college of education, where you will not take at least a course in statistics. It is as important as that. So if the center of statistics is data, data are raw materials that the statistician works with. So how do I now get my data? So there are two sources of data collection. We are going to be taking this one after the other. It starts with the collection of data. When we have collected data, then we go about compiling, the compilation, then the editing. If the data, it may be large, it may be a small scale. Some may not need compilation, some may not need editing. If they are properly corrected, especially data collected through secondary sources, they may not need editing. So what you just need to do is present them the way they were collected, then you do your analysis, and of course you interpret. So we have two major sources of data collection. Number one is called the primary sources. These primary sources of data collection, they are sources where the statistician or the researcher gets the data directly by himself. He can use any of the methods. So there are methods of collecting primary data. A data is said to be primary if it is directly collected by the researcher or the statistician. There are various methods you can use. Number one, you can make use of what we call the observation method. Observation method. Now, when we talk about observation, observation can be likened to be two parts. It can be participant observation. It can be non-participant observation. Now, a researcher can decide to observe by participating to collect data. He can decide not to be part of what is going on while watching from a distance to collect data. So data can be collected via observation method. Another method is through the interview method. A researcher can decide to interview an officer that is in charge of the data he or she needs for research, directly or indirectly. Interview can be directly by meeting the person one-on-one. An interview can also be indirectly. So it can either be directly or indirectly. When it is directly, the researcher or the statistician goes to the person one-on-one and discusses with the person. But if it is indirectly, it can make use of phone call or any other means of communication. But still, it will get whatever data that he needs from the person involved or the organization involved. Then we can also use the survey method. A researcher can decide to do a survey. He can go, for instance, you want to study the hike in prices of commodity. A researcher or can decide to go to the market and begin to find out the prices of various commodities and so on and so forth. He goes to the field and gets whatever he wants. We can also use the questionnaire. The questionnaire is a document that is designed. It has a series of questions that suit the particular research that the researcher wants to carry out. The researcher will design the questionnaire and gives it to there's what we call the target respondent. Those that suit the people that will respond to the questionnaire are those that the research concern. So it doesn't just go to any. For instance, you are doing a research about a particular people in the oil industry. You don't just take the questionnaire to the banking industry to get data. You go to the oil industry, select a number of people that will suit that particular research, and you give them. Of course, you must have taken the number of sample that you want. We will get there. When we are saying, when we continue with this topic, we will get there. So these are a few of the various methods, primary methods that the statistician or the researcher can use in getting primary data. So these primary data are highly dependable because they were directly collected by the researcher. And again, we must understand that when the primary data are collected by the researcher, it is good for the researcher to sit down, compile them. They can arrange them in various ways as they relate to each other, then edit them properly before presenting them for analysis. There are various ways to do that. Now, after doing this, the next thing is to talk about the various ways that the statistician can go ahead to present the data. Now, data presentation. There are methods of presenting statistical data after they have been collected. Now, okay, before we go to presentation, we can still deal with the second method, which is the secondary method of data collection. The secondary method, number 2, the secondary method. Then these secondary methods are methods used for collecting secondary data. What are secondary data? Secondary data are data that have already been collected by other organizations, individuals, and the researcher find them good enough for his or her research. And the methods we can use are: number 1, we can use the mass media. Number 2, we can get data from government organizations. Then we can also get from non-governmental organizations. We can get from social media. But data gotten from social media are sometimes independent. You can't depend on them because of the way people manipulate things. You can get from billboards, from bill. These are sources that are not primary in nature. Mass media, of course, data you get from mass media, of course, you know that people collected them and kept them there. From government organizations like the Ministry of Education, the Federal Road Safety, somebody that is trying to study the causes of accident and trying to provide solution to it within a particular location. You can get data from the road safety, the amount of or the number of accidents that have happened within a particular period of time. Somebody that wants to study the causes and the causes and cure of a particular disease, you can go get your data from the Ministry of Education and so on and so forth. So you can go and collect data that are already recorded and kept by people who are just doing their jobs and recording this data. So many people mistake data for information. They are not the same. When data are collected, they are now processed. What you get is information. So these are the secondary methods that we can use to collect secondary data. So a set of data can either be primary in nature or secondary in nature. So we have done that. So now I want to go to presentation of data. Presentation of data. We are looking at after we have a successful statistician or a researcher has successfully collected his or her data, whether through the primary source or using a primary method or through a secondary source using a secondary method. It depends on the nature of research and it depends on what you are researching about. You can mix up data. You can collect some from primary and secondary depending on what your research is. It's not bad. It is not compulsory that if you are doing a particular research, it is the nature of the data that determines the method that you will use to collect them. And you ensure that the right data are collected. Then well compiled, edited to see if there are errors. And when they are edited, the next thing is to present the data. So we'll be looking at presentation of data. Data can be presented in 3 major ways in statistics. Number 1, in tabular ways. Number 2, graphical ways. Then number 3, we can see in text. This cover, there are other ways that data can be presented, but the simplest way, you present data in a way that when a layman sees it, it will be well understood. When data are presented in tables, I give you an example. You can decide to take the height of the students in your class as a class teacher. You can say let x be the height of the boys, no, of the girls. Then you can now say let y be the height of the boys. Now, if you want to present the data tabularly, it's very easy. You just come and create a table. You can say this is your x and this is your y. If there are 20 students in the class, maybe 10 boys and 10 girls, you begin to record their height. X will now be the height of the girls here. Y will now be the height of the boys there. What you have gotten a set of data. You have presented the data tabularly, in a tabular form. When data are presented in tabular form, they are easier to analyze. Via visual inspection, you see them clearly and you begin to see one or two information from them. I told you data are not information. Data are raw materials. It's just like the raw materials you use in a manufacturing company. When they are processed, you get the final product. Information are always the final product when data are processed. So processed data are called information. So we should get that. We should stop mixing them up. So now you have a table like this of height, the height of the girls and height of the boys, and you record them. Then by the time you now start analyzing the data in that particular table, you can calculate, for instance, the mean height of the girls, the mean height of the boys, and so on and so forth. Which boy is the tallest, which girl is the tallest, which boy is the shortest, which girl is the shortest, or the average, and so on and so forth. You are beginning to get information by doing that analysis. So this is one way we can present data. Then the second way is through the graphical ways. That is where under these graphical ways we have under the graphical way of presenting data, we have so many graphs we can use. We have the pie charts, we have the bar chart, we have the histogram. These are the three commonest that we use. There are many others, the radar charts and the rest of them. So the pie charts, you put the data in a pie chart or in a bar chart or in a histogram. From there you'll be able to see, these are ways of presenting that, but when you put this data in these charts, you'll begin to see, like for instance, if I have a bar as this is an example of a bar chart, not histogram, like this, and so on and so forth. Maybe this is my y-axis and this is my x-axis. X may represent something else, y may represent something else. From here you will see the one with the tallest bar. It shows you that has the highest, followed by the next, and so on and so forth. So when data are put in bars or in bar charts or histogram, the difference between histogram, this one is an example of a bar chart. Histogram, the bars are joined together. You will see them like this, like this, like this, and so on and so forth. You have your y-axis, you have your x-axis, depending on what you have defined your x to be or what you have defined your y to be. This is an example of a histogram. So these are ways. Then the third way we can present data is called the text way. This one, you don't like the normal text message, you type them, you record them in text form. So there are other ways we can use to present data But these are the three major ways. So I want to end the class for today. I want to really thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube video. I will be coming up with part 2 of this video by this weekend. It's nice having you around. Thanks for watching. God bless you.